Testing audio. Hey, sorry. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Phil Dixon, Chairman of the Board of Architectural Review, and we welcome you to our BAR meeting this evening at 6 o'clock on the 7th of March. It's the time for our meeting to begin. Depending on the size and complexity of a project, each applicant has the opportunity to present a conceptual or master plan for our review prior to committing funds for a full set of design plans and specifications. Approval of a concept means that we might agree with the concept while disagreeing with some of the details. It also means that each phase of the project must be submitted at a later date, once plans are more fully developed, to obtain the board's final approval for that individual portion of the project. Hopefully, any disagreements will have been worked out before the applicant comes back before the board. Some of the projects being reviewed this evening have been submitted before and are now ready for considered for final further approval. For those of you who may be new to our meeting, our charge is to look at each project purely on the aesthetics, design, architecture, height, mass, and scale, and in harmony with the historic district in the town of Somerville. We look at the overall street scene. Although we're not required to solicit comments from anyone other than the applicant and the board members, except for demolition requests, we usually choose to allow others to express comments that might help influence our decision making after the applicant has presented the project and the board members have resolved any questions they might have. Because of the number of projects we have to review, we ask that anyone wishing to comment, please try to limit your comments to not more than about 5 minutes, if possible. As always, we will review each submittal in the order that it was submitted. However, as a first order of business, we must approve the minutes of our last meeting, which were sent to board members for review prior to this meeting. Are there any changes that need to be made, or do I have a motion that they be accepted?
I move that we accept them as is.
Second. Second. All right, all in favor, please answer. David?
Yes.
Rachel?
Yeah.
Tim?
Yes.
Nancy Jean?
Yes.
Jane?
Yes.
And mine is yes. First project on our list tonight is 213 South Laurel Street.
Good evening.
Please tell us about it.
I just wanted to change. I was gonna put barn style doors on, but the track system that I was planning on putting in on it cost prohibitive. It would cost almost as much as the materials that I had originally purchased for the whole construction. It's very complicated. So in lieu of that, I bought French doors and installed at the same make as the front door. That's the only change.
Welcome to the world of higher prices.
Yeah. It's mechanics for the other one were.
I think it looks fine.
No
Can I
problem.
have a motion to accept it then?
I'll make a motion to accept.
Second,
I'll second.
please answer. David?
Yes.
Rachel?
Yes.
Yes.
Nancy Jean?
Yes.
Jane?
Yes.
And mine is yes. Wish you well.
Thank you.
Finish it up. Our next project is 311 South Gum Street.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
No.
They're chatting. You shouldn't have been doing that.
So we are back for a second time. I know that on the first time that we were here, we did not get a vote because it was just sort of a conceptual, wanted you guys to get your eyes on it, maybe get some initial feedback. But we've had the opportunity to go back and add some additional details to the plans. Ms. Kosak has chosen some colors. I know that you wanted some hardware added to the garage doors, so we did that. You wanted to see some sort of detail under the front porch to kind of make it look like a crawl space, even though it's a raised slab. So I went and I added some stucco projections for some little archways there, so that we don't have to worry about it being too proud of the floor above. And you wanted a detail on the windows. So on the detail page, probably second to the last page, there is a detail for the window trim there, showing the slope sill on the bottom. I added in the retaining wall per plan from the landscape architect. So if you go to that front view, I wanted to, so it's on page 17. I did a front 3D view because you guys wanted to sort of see from the street what it was going to look like going down that driveway. And honestly, it'll have some landscaping up there, but you won't even see that retaining wall, and because there's such a deep dive back there. So that's pretty much what you're going to see if you're, and when I do those views, I do those views at 5.5 feet. So literally it's where I stand. That would be my vantage point. So if you're taller, you might see a little bit more. If you're shorter, you might see a little less. So that's pretty much, I believe that was all of the comments that were made from the initial review. So
Questions?
I'm just, excuse me, I'm just now recognizing for the first time the view through the gable window. What is that?
say that one, the what through the gable window?
The view through it looks like,
Oh, it's background noise in the drawing. That's just it's a cutout for the dormer for that roof meeting the other one. It's going to have a ceiling up there. So.
It does look fun.
More detail than you normally see.
Okay.
I particularly like what you did with the foundation.
Me too. Much improved.
It's,
I like what you did in the foundation as well. I am wondering though, if under the triple window on the right side, maybe that needs to be widened out further because it looks, although it matches the other little arches, it doesn't look proportional to the massing above.
So I did study that because we have just a certain amount of height to work with there. If I widen it out, the radius on the top of the arch isn't going to be the same. So I think it's still going to look somewhat distorted. So I think it's going to look distorted one way or another. Again, as I mentioned at the last meeting, there's going to be a lot of landscaping there anyways. So there's really a great opportunity there for JR to kind of bring in some symmetry and some scaling and some height where we don't have that detail.
Yeah.
and there's not enough room there to put two arches like to
There
the left of
is.
the door.
There is, but
I-
but there'd be no way to center those arches under anything above.
I think the arch is in the correct location, like centered on the window, but I think it needs to be wider, and I appreciate the arch goes flatter, but it is not like the right proportions as shown. I understand what you're saying, that it changes the shape a little bit. It'll be a flatter arch, and I understand that it's landscaping, but it's still several feet high.
Mhm.
So I think it just needs to be like wider.
Fair enough.
I would disagree with Rachel on that comment.
You
That,
think?
yeah, that needs to be wider, and, you know, the proportion from the band board to the top of the arch should remain the same, but the span of the arch should just,
The radius
Go
is gonna
out
get
that-
much larger.
the
Right.
radius would have to be
Yeah.
larger. That's correct.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that would be okay.
We've done that frequently. I think it works really well and it just feels proportional for the massing above it.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna fight you either.
Mm.
Yeah.
Whatever you want. Your wish.
So one of the little, this is a very small detail, but could you go to the window detail, Becca? So there, the slope sill should continue past so that it catches the band boards on the side, the trim boards on the side.
Okay,
And it should not stop just at the window
so you want it to
itself.
come like an inch past?
Right, so those trim boards should come down, sit on top of that, and then you would have an apron underneath that trim board, underneath that slope sill.
2x4 apron?
Yeah, you've got whatever that apron is. You say treated 4x4 chamfered sill or treated 2x4. So the 2x4 is fine. But just the slope portion of that should extend out.
You're talking about extend, protrude out this way?
Well, it should extend out to the
And it
face
does.
and it should extend out on the sides as well. So
Okay.
the trim board should sit on top of the slope sill.
But she
Not
doesn't,
picture
she
frame
doesn't
it.
have a trim below.
Isn't that a trim right there?
I think that slope sill is that she's showing the slope and the face. It's one piece. Is that what we're reading?
Well, maybe
the-
so. Is that what that's saying? Maybe I'm misinterpreting. the
So
drawing there.
so basically, and I probably just need to take off the 2x4 trim. So what it's going to be is a 4x4. And what they'll do is they'll chamfer and clip off the top corner of that. And that is how you get the slope away from the house. So it's going to protrude out from the house that 3.5 inches.
Okay. You know, an easy way to make that detail is like Southern Lumber is one of them. They make that piece.
Mhm.
And so you don't have to take a real 4x and just buy that piece. It's already got the slope on it. It's already got the bull nose on it. And they do it to mimic this detail for historic houses in Charleston.
Okay.
Super easy way to make it look accurate, historically accurate.
I'll talk to Brad about that.
Regarding those arch, that right hand up arch, I would feel much more comfortable about approving a change to that if I saw this as you proposed with what you could do with what Rachel is proposing. That would not, in my mind, keep me from approving this. And we could approve that whichever way looked best to us when it came back, but I'm not sure that flattening the arch in order to make it fit a wider space is going to look as good as what you have proposed.
Mhm.
I can just add an option on the plans. So when we come back, you guys can select which option you want.
How do you all feel about that?
I'm fine.
I'd kind of like to see it.
I agree. And especially as you're unsure, will it look okay? I think you should see it.
Would you also want to see two on that side like you were talking about?
I don't think two will fit.
Mm-mm.
I think two would look worse.
I would agree.
I think you've done a good job of addressing the issues that we brought forth last time.
We gave you a
Appreciate that.
bunch. We gave you a bunch.
Yeah. Is there anybody else that wanted to make any comments?
Sir?
No, I just want to see if anybody else was here, wanted to make any comments. Just
Well, I would move that we vote to approve as presented with the issues addressed that Tim brought up about the sill detail and having an opportunity to look at the two options for how that arched detail is handled.
I have a second.
I'll second.
All right, please,
I'll second. Sorry, Mike was off.
please respond, yes or no. David,
Yes,
Rachel,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Nancy Jean,
Yes,
Jane,
Yes,
and mine is yes. So we look forward to seeing you go forward.
Good luck, guys.
Our next project is 312 West Richardson Avenue.
I don't see Mr. Benford here, so we can push that to the end and then
Okay.
go ahead and.
Let's
You're gonna-
move on to the other one then. 518 West Second South Street.
And just, oh, sorry, just so y'all are aware, they are doing a lot of maintenance repair work that has already been approved at staff level that's within the packet. This is just to address the brick, painting of the brick.
Yeah. The lower half of the home is like super patchy with the brick finishes. Apparently the house wasn't all bricked in originally. And they've come in and patched it with new brick, old brick, colored brick, textured brick. And it is a lot when you look at the majority of the home being white. And it didn't bother us originally because it was covered by azaleas, but then we removed the azaleas because they were so overgrown, and it's just very apparent. And as you can tell there, it's just different textures, looks. It's just a lot. And we're having to fix a lot of the wood rot on the home. And we were just thinking that for it to be a seamless look, to bring the color down onto the brick. Even though we are going to put a lot of landscaping that will cover it. We just overall thought that that would be a lot better, a lot better of a look than leaving it that like red brick and different colors and textures. So
I think it's a great idea. I think you've got a hodgepodge and a lot of it is, or some of it's not historic, some is, but it's a really great way to create a harmonious exterior that would look appropriate and still keep the original materials there so that you're not, destroying.
yeah, I mean, the wood,
historic.
the exterior wood is original to the home, so we're trying to
Yeah.
work with as much of it as we can. And of course, the front of the home isn't insulated, so we're battling with that issue. But other than that, we're
Yeah.
trying to keep it as historic as possible. But it's just the brick is just an eyesore in my opinion. But y'all may feel differently.
I wonder, and some of you people that are more color conscious than I, you think it might look better if the base were painted a slightly different color of
yes,
white in the white family, but a slightly different color than the wood, so it didn't look like the whole thing came down to the ground.
Yeah, so the on the finish sheet, the second color where it says 3, that's gonna be the shutter colors because the original shutters were in our basement, like when we bought the home, and we're gonna paint the shutters that color. So I mean that's another option. And I have an
Yeah.
example of a home painted with these 2 exact colors if y'all like to see it. I don't know. I don't have it on here, but I can email it and then she can show you all or show you now, whichever. But I mean, it's a newer home, but it's painted with these exact colors. But I mean, that would, I don't know.
I'm asking for advice from my color conscious members of the board.
I think I think a darker color would look better, have some contrast between the siding and the brick.
I tend to feel the same way. That monolithic doesn't look proper.
So do
Yeah.
the Revere pewter on the base, and then this was coffee as like the main color, and then the brick be the pewter.
Which is the pewter color? Oh, the number 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
3, 4.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that would look really great, having it a little bit darker and being a little different.
Yeah. I mean, I'm happy with that too. the color, the brick is just, it's a lot.
Yeah.
If this brick were all uniform and in good shape, we would
Yeah, it's. a
discourage you from painting it.
Yeah, I mean, there's like bricks laying around the home on the ground. I mean, I pulled one and painted it just to see what it would look like painted, if I was allowed to paint, and it turned out really nice, but of course, it's just, it's been hodgepodge for many, many years.
It covers up the hodgepodge.
Yeah, and I mean, I reached out to a historian and he told us the home wasn't even there originally, like the home's been moved. It was across the street originally, from what we were told. That when the home was originally built, it was like a lake there or something, so.
One thing that you could try is like a schmear or
Yeah. we
like a
thought about that.
whitewashing kind of process, because that would allow you to see some of the brick behind it as well.
Yeah, the only
that-
thing we're running into is cleaning it. If you can't power wash a schmear, it comes off. So then
Uh,
you'd run into having to reapply it every time you wash your home. And with it being on the lower half of the home,
Yeah,
just like plant
Splatter.
material, cutting
Yeah.
grass, all that would be cut up against it. You couldn't even wash it. I mean, I looked into many washes because me and Becca had talked about it. And
yeah,
I even looked into more of a textured wash that you dye with the paint color you want. So you can't even see through it. And it's
Right.
more textured, but it still is removed, even just power washing it.
Yeah, I agree with that problem.
I accept that that's a valid
I
comment,
looked
because
into it.
it can't be that fragile in this instance, in this situation.
I looked into it. I don't know. I don't know. Obviously, I've never done it personally, but I did look into it. Because I was open to it.
Have you ever looked into Jomax for washing the house? You don't have to power wash it. If you apply the Jomax, it doesn't hurt bushes and all that stuff,
Right,
and it won't damage the wood, and it won't chip off the paint.
right.
But you just kind of spray it on according to the directions, then hose it off.
Hmm.
We've used it before on a house that we thought we were going to have to repaint.
Right.
We didn't have to repaint it.
Yeah, I know that we're gonna have to power wash the entire home in order to have it repainted because they're gonna strip down all the original boards. So we're gonna already have to go through that situation. But we also don't know how many boards that's gonna reveal being raw, so
Mhm.
we may run into a whole nother issue when we start doing this, but we needed to jump through these hoops
Mhm.
before we.
And
We
just to confirm, you're just doing the around the foundation, not the steps or anything like that.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just the foundation and then the porch is already painted, but
Yeah.
it has holes, it's rotten. So we're just gonna replace it with the number 6 that she already approved and paint it. One of, I guess the house color or the number 3, the Revere pewter. I don't know.
I'll go back to I would move that we approve the painting of the foundation with this pewter color.
I appreciate that.
I'll second.
Any others? Oh. Please respond yes or no. David,
Yes.
Rachel,
Yes,
Tim,
Yes.
Nancy Jean,
Yes.
Jane,
Yes.
and mine's yes also. So wish you well with it.
So Mr. Benford is still not here. Y'all can either choose to discuss this or defer it. It was done without a permit, so it would be good if you could discuss it, but I understand if you'd rather have the homeowner here. But just to explain my staff report, there was a accessory structure built behind this house on, I'm jumping around here. That's what I want, on West Richardson. So here's the shed. And then a picket fence was put along the property line and then back here. From what I understand, Mr. Benford plans to paint the structure, but he is waiting for the wood to be ready. And same goes for the fence.
Does he know what color he's gonna paint it yet?
I believe to match the house.
The picket fence is one that staff would have approved.
Technically, no, because it is in a water course buffer, but style, just on style alone, yes, I would have approved that, but he did get a variance from the engineering department to have the shed and the fence within that water course buffer, which is a 50-foot buffer from that canal that goes kind of behind those houses across the street on West Richardson and then under West Richardson and then behind onto Laurel.
Becca, can you see this from the street?
Yes. Let me see if I can find. So you can see it if you're further down on Laurel, but that's the view from right in front of the, well, not right in front of, but to the side of the house.
Do we feel we want to review it and decide, or do we want to have the owner here so we can talk to them?
And I'm also wondering, is he gonna put anything on top of that bar surface, the plywood bar surface,
You can't
or just
see
paint it?
You can't see
That's a
it
good
from the
question.
street.
Yeah, the
can you?
one where they're serving drinks, I guess, like where the stools are. I was just curious if he was gonna put anything on top of that tile or granite or just paint.
I
I
am
think
not sure.
aside from the fact that it was done without permitting, that it's something that I would probably have approved.
Yeah, I would agree, especially if it's painted to match the house. I feel strong that it needs to be painted and not left like that.
But if he has followed in his father's footsteps, his work is probably very good. And if you look at the detail on that thing, the corner posts have plinth blocks. And there's a detail around the base of the building. It's not done with the typical slapdash, throw it up shed.
I did have a
detail.
question, maybe for Tim and Rachel. If a condition were given for Mr. Benford to paint the structure, is there a certain time limit after that?
He's using treated wood, so typically it depends on where he bought it.
Okay,
It comes wet.
Right.
It's not kill dried after it's treated.
right,
And so you do need to allow 6 weeks.
okay.
for it
Well,
to
it's
dry
been
out.
longer than that,
So-
so,
So,
But
you know,
he's ready.
okay.
you can,
by the time summer comes.
I usually give 30 days from the time the condition was
Yeah.
given. That way people have time and then I'll go inspect.
Sure.
the true determination of whether the wood is dry enough is to take a moisture meter to it.
Sure. Yeah, that's the real way, but considering the conditions we're having now, the will dry out pretty quickly. The winter time is obviously doesn't dry as
And
quickly.
I would bet that he probably bought it from Berlin Myers.
Well,
and
if he
so
did that, it
probably-
would have been pre-dried.
It'd be
Yeah, if
pre-dried.
It came from the big box guys, it's
Yeah.
not, it's wet.
Cute.
I
Should we
would,
go ahead and vote then? Make a motion? I'll make a motion that we approve it with the caveat that it's painted to match the house.
second,
Please answer for me. David,
yes,
Rachel,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Nancy Jean,
Yes.
Jane,
Yes.
and I agree. So, thank you
All
very
right,
much.
that's all she wrote, folks. So if I can get a motion to adjourn
so moved.
in a second.
Second.
Everybody in favor, stand up and leave.
Amen.